meeting of Marquette County Board of Education in order. Please hold office to the president as the president.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Anybody on Zoom?
Anybody on Zoom? Yeah.
Announce yourself if you're on the Zoom. Next, approval of the minutes of the following meeting, the regular meeting held on September 20th, 2022. Motion to consider.
So moved.
Support.
Motion and support. The regular meeting held on September 22nd. Questions or comments on it? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Proclamations, presentations, and awards. There are none. Approval of the agenda. Motion to approve the agenda is in order.
Motion to approve as presented.
Have a support? Mr. Hubble? Comments on that? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Public comment. Anyone wishing to address the board? Go forward and give your name and address and speak.
Good. Okay, James Gallant, Marquette County Suicide Prevention Coalition. These are my opinions. And please do not provide any direct funding for childcare. Like you said, I agree with you, Jerry, that, it's not your board's priority to provide childcare, actually, directly, but it's not zero. And I believe you should partner with Northern to expand the curriculum, to grow the infrastructure to grow that in this community so that we can then make the facilities to do that, and then that's the next level of the infrastructure to let that system of care happen. And also, I'm here representing the Marisa Community Wellness Task Force. We had a meeting recently, and I've been appointed to inquire with the governor of the state of Michigan and other policymakers concerning your definitions of the operational, definition of comprehensive mental health services. The governor has provided and said in the news that she provided $100 million for comprehensive mental health services. And your employee, the Marquette County Health Officer, provides mental health services at the schools, clinics, to the community and to the children. And so we're asking you to identify what is your operational definition of comprehensive mental health services. And at the coalition meeting, we all voted and we agreed that, on your behalf also, that we were going to start with the idea that comprehensive means that those services would be provided and consistent with the minimum standards of the approved laws and rules and guidelines associated with those services. And that would be a starting point. And that would be MCL 330.1712, which in the mental health code is the individualized written plan of services. And it says that you shall address 9 things: parameters of a person's life, food, shelter, clothing, medical care, whatnot, but needs for legal services. And that's the thing that's missing. And that's supposed to be on every mental health assessment under the mental health code, MCL 330.1712. That's the thing. Needs for legal services, including custody and parenting time. And that is what is driving the suicide in our society. 63% of youth suicides are children from fatherless homes. And they go to these mental health assessments and you don't assess their needs for legal services. It's not on the assessment. You use a nationally validated assessment tool if you use in any state. It's not specific to the laws of any one state. So that's why they don't get involved with legal issues. That's what your county attorney should get her to give her legal opinion of, do those assessments currently provided consistent with the minimum standards of state law? You ask her to do that, you should do that in writing, and then she'd get back in writing, and then we can all document this and move forward with this, so that, when we use that $150 million, that we're actually getting at least the minimum standard. They all want to think about what extra we want to do. What do we want to do with all this? We're going to expand the comprehensiveness of it. Well, get with what is actually supposed to be at the beginning: food, shelter, clothing, medical care, recreation, education, things human beings need. not about race, not about your gender, not about none of that. It's about human needs of human being. And just to make sure you're providing it. And I would ask you folks to vote today to get the written report from your liaison to the health department here, the voting member, right? Do the assessments that you provide and that you're responsible for at the health department, consistent with the minimum standard state law. And that's the Marisa Community Wellness Task Force that's asking you that. I'm on their behalf. And so, thank you very much.
Public comment? State your name and address and may speak.
My name is Janet Crick, C-R-I-C-K. My address is 124 North Dukes Road in Scandia.
Go ahead.
Okay, although we are not on the agenda, a few years back, 2014, there were some concerns for the Martins Lake and surrounding inland lakes water as to the drastic reduction in the lake levels. Over the last several years, the lakes have been coming back and are looking beautiful and healthy up until this late this summer. And we're starting to see what I would call the bathtub rings, where the water appears to be being reduced at a kind of a drastic level, and we've noticed quite a reduction in our lake levels again. What I would ask is to perhaps at a future meeting to have this addressed again. In 2014, there was a suggestion of having perhaps the Superior Watershed Partnership and Northern and perhaps Michigan Tech and other various agencies do a study. I'm not sure if that study was ever taken or if there were any results from that study. And I would like to find out if perhaps we can get, as it gets closer to spring, perhaps on the agenda to have this addressed again, and perhaps if we could get any assistance through the Marquette Commission about getting some help on working with some of these agencies. I'm not sure if it's climate change or if there is actually a problem with the wells again, but I would like to find out if we could have that addressed. All right, thank you very much for your time today.
Thank you.
My name is Aiden McKendalls, 408 William Huber Avenue, Marquette. I wanted to come in and introduce myself. I'm the newly appointed Register of Deeds for the County of Marquette, and I wanted to thank everyone for the opportunity to serve the county and all of its constituents. I haven't met everybody here yet before, so I just wanted to share a little bit of my background quickly. I'm born and raised in Marquette. I'm a graduate of Marquette Senior High School and Northern Michigan University. I'm a paralegal and a real estate assistant. I worked for Kendricks Berto Law Firm for 6 years and progressed to be a title closer and escrow agent. I moved on to become licensed as a title producer and researcher for the past 9 years. Real estate's been a passion of mine, and I'm very excited to work with the public as I have in the past. It's an honor to move into this capacity of being the recorder for all land records for the County of Marquette. I appreciate all the confidence the county administration and department heads have shown me since I arrived in July. Carla Hilliard did an excellent job running the Register of Deeds office for many years, and I hope to continue the same reputation moving forward. And I want to make sure you don't hesitate to reach out to me in case you need any assistance, and I look forward to working with you all in the future. Thank you.
There are very good things about your abilities, so
I appreciate
it
that.
should work out fine for you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name's Stephen Krieger. I am here representing Room at the Inn of 447 West Washington. I too wanted to take a moment today to introduce myself. I've been within the interim executive director position for the past going on 8 months now. And I come to you today after having submitted a request to try and enhance our current facilities and improve the general infrastructure so we can continue to provide services to some of our most vulnerable neighbors here in Marquette. This funding that had been requested had previously gone through on a different plan, but given the current rate of inflation, our state of operations, as well as the depreciation of our current building, we are looking to strengthen internally to stay where we are and continue to service over the 150 individuals that we've had within the past 3 months, continuing to serve our 3 meals a given day and provide more than a few thousand bed nights within a given year. I myself am a social work graduate of the University of Michigan with a focus on community conduct and behavioral-based therapy with an intent interest on restorative practices where we can work with our guests to see where we've been, what are opportunities that we can take to move forward in a proactive and educational manner. Again, I wanted to introduce myself and continue the conversation on how we can continue to enhance our current operations, but even to begin a conversation about what to do for the coming winter. A small task force, including myself, has begun a conversation, but I will say the numbers of individuals within Marquette County of unsheltered individuals continues to grow, and that gives me great concern for the fact that we only have 28 spaces within our current facility. So this is an excellent opportunity to raise the flag prior to the first snowflakes dropping. So I thank you for your time.
Thank you. Is there public comment?
Cynthia DePietro. I live at 821 Grove Street in Marquette. I am also a seasonal resident at Martin Lake, and I've owned property out there for 20 years. And since we've owned our property, very little has been done to help the fluctuation of the water levels out there. So I am piggybacking on my neighbor, Miss Crick, and just wanting to plead with you. This is my property. This is something my husband and I bought in hopes that someday we can sell it and retire. And in the state of our lake right now, that's impossible. We would not get maybe even part of what we put into it. The last time the lake levels went down so low, we could literally walk across the lake. It was bad. And I think you all know. I mean, if anybody reads the Mining Journal or watches TV6, they're probably going to remember those things. So the fish have been depleted. All the fish died. Nobody has ever came to our rescue and said, do you want us to help replenish any fish or wildlife in our lake? Every time the lake levels go down, we get this, it's called water shield, and it's very evasive. And it just is taking over the entire lake, which is killing the lake also. So it's choking out everything. So again, I'm just pleading with you, think about it if this was your property, if this is something that you took pride in and wanted to maybe have as a retirement fund for yourself, maybe think a little differently about the waters and the wells and the things that are going on out there. I've noticed a couple of different wells being drilled out there. At least I'm no well driller, but I think that's what's going on. So thank you again for your time.
I'm John Reist. I'm a full-time resident of the Martin Lake Road, or Martin Lake area, Martin Lake, 1435 East Martin Lake Road in Scandia. Reiterating everything that they've previously said, the lake level is ridiculously low. It's a mud pit. My dogs can walk across the lake basically right now. I'm also representing other neighbors who have lived on Martin Lake for 50 plus years who couldn't be here today because Linda Winfield has COVID now. I don't know if anybody knows the Winfield names. But I would really like to see some kind of attention paid to the lake or the water levels in that entire area, because we moved here 2020, specifically because of the beauty that lake provided for us and our home. We live here year round and we loved the area. We still love the area, but we'd sure like to not live on a mud pit versus the lake that we thought we were going to live on. That's all. Thank you.
Public comment?
Margaret Brum, 404 East Magnetic Street. I'm here to make a request. It's the starting point of an additional series of requests I'll be making, but I decided to start here because the request goes beyond the scope of the city of Marquette and actually captures all aspects of the county. Recently, I sponsored an art show at the Peter White Public Library to raise awareness for the sheer amount of litter that is present on our beautiful natural resources. And we had many entries. It wasn't difficult at all to find pictures. The winning entry was a picture of our beautiful red lighthouse with the beach, the iconic beach, and in the lower left-hand corner there was a hypodermic needle. And the second winning entry was, for a certain age group, was Picnic Rocks, where people, I don't know who, I don't know why, but I think to stop erosion, they're dumping used light poles with concrete and rebar in them right next to the lake as well. So the art show actually got a lot of play on Facebook, and then a week later, the League of Women Voters borrowed it for their explanation of the voting process to young children, and they put it back at Peter White Public Library, and they asked the children to vote on 4 possible things that they should support in the next year, and the one that won was picking up litter, because it seemed to resonate with the children who, for want of a better term, are low to the ground and look at things that are grounded and don't have, I call it litter blindness, refrigerator blindness, when you open the fridge and you just can't see what you're looking for. But there's a lot of people with litter blindness. They look at a beautiful scene and they don't see the rest of it. So I'm coming here for a proclamation for 2023-2024 to be the year of reduction of litter within Marquette County, and coordinating a series of events with the groups that do the traditional cleanups within the county, but having the county imprimatur on it so that it would be endorsed and supported. I'm not asking you for money. I mean, seriously, I'm not asking you for money, but I am asking for the public awareness that such a proclamation will be. And I'm just laying the groundwork at this meeting. At the next meeting, I'll bring in a resolution for you to think about. But what I'm trying to do, again, is continuing the raising of awareness that no matter what beautiful place we have, everything I can see is being ruined by garbage on the ground. And unless we change the mind thinking of people, no matter how much we save the planet, we're still going to be walking over garbage to do it. And I wish I had something more productive and positive to talk to you about, but this seems to be my thing to do, so I'm going to do it. So in conclusion, I'll be coming back to the next meeting with a resolution to declare in Marquette County the year 2023-2024. It's going to take a whole cycle of spring, thaw, summer, winter preparation, and all that, to coordinate all the efforts on trash pickup, litter pickup, grant monies for getting rid of tires, and to make a real effort to make a dent in the litter and change the way people think about it. So you'll be seeing me again. Thank you.
Thank you. 20 minutes are up, I guess, for public comments. So we'll move on to review of claims on accounts. Total expenditures for the period September 16th to 29th were $538,128.75. Financial payroll for the period ending September 17th, $711,150.39. Motion to pay bills.
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Adamini. Supported by Commissioner Petro. Any questions on the bills? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Next, public hearing here on County of Marquette, notice of close on the public hearing for Michigan Community Development Block Grant CDBC funding for Dockers Incorporated. County of Marquette will conduct a closed-out public hearing on October 4th, 2022 at 3:00 p.m. Eastern Standard Time in room 231, second floor of the Henry A. Skewes Courthouse Annex, Marquette, Michigan. Report on the completion of the Dockers LLC CDBG grant. The CDBG grant provided funds to assist in the purchase of equipment to expand Dockers chocolate and candy sales and working capital. The primary goal was to retain employees, and they were successful. The CDBG project benefited at least 51% low to moderate income persons. No persons were displaced as a result of this project. Interested parties are invited to comment on the project in person at the public hearing or in writing through Thursday, September 29th, 2022 at 5 o'clock p.m. Then to address to Gerald Parkinson, Board of Commissioners, 234 West Bergen Avenue, Marquette, Michigan. County of Marquette, Gerald O. Parkinson. So any comments anyone wants to make on the Dockers project? Any comments? Hearing none, the hearing is closed.
I have a question, a procedural thing though. Don't we have to have an action item then to close it out after we've had the public hearing?
What I was told I'm supposed to do is to take this and submit the documents back to the Northern Initiatives who will finish off. We'll get the minutes, we'll do this hearing is required. You wouldn't, if you want to take action, so.
Just as a normal procedural thing, I always thought we had hearings and then later on we had action on it, you know?
Well, let's make a motion.
I make a motion to close out the Dockers CDBG grant.
All support?
Support.
Everyone supported, Jerry supported first.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? No privilege comment, ruled at the end, our request, we have another request. Want to look over and talk about in the future concerning ARPA funds. So I guess motion to accept that for file would be in order.
So moved.
Support. Motion.
I guess I got a question on it though. So, as other people applied for ARPA funds, and I mean, I think we kind of earmarked all of them now, but things may change and move around or whatever. What do we do with these? Do we put them in the hopper and we think about it? Do we have another meeting at some point? What do we do?
Well, we feel that we're going to have to come back to the board and just revisit where you want to go. We're going to provide you a recent update in writing as well, kind of where the dollars are at, what's been allocated. And we send you all the things we have. We haven't had, I think the most recent request we received was the one that you have today, this room at the end. At some point, you may want to revisit some of these and look at them because you have dollars allocated for those types of areas. But when we get new ones, which hasn't been very often, we send those to you. But we had talked about, because the other component of things that I think the board needs to recognize is all of the dollars we have are eligible as part of revenue. Once at the end of the year, those dollars will be rolled in as revenue loss, what's not been allocated. So for projects like you're reviewing today with the child care, after you roll those in, you won't be able to do certain projects on that list because of statutory limitations. And those are things we wanted to get into a little more detail with you before the end of the year.
Okay. Put $100+ grand in Jackson, over here for people homeless since going forward.
It's not lost on me that the city of Marquette spent their ARPA funds on a fire truck and revenue losses. And we could have certainly done the same thing and funded a whole bunch of our revenue losses, and we chose not to.
Point well made. Okay. Next, action item, ARPA child funding consideration. We have here, I guess, recommendation about dollars here to put out, and just $100,000 that we have, I guess, to community fund for their action, and $100,000 for grant applications to the county to consider, and something where they ask for the Lake Superior Community Partnership to be involved with that. I would suggest to the board that these requests come to the county and then to the county board for the final decision of any grants that are put out. So I guess I'd ask for a motion to consider that.
I'd like to clarify in a motion, and so we can discuss this. I'd like to approve the initial budgeted 100,000 that the county board budgeted in our initial package. And then create a grant pilot program with an additional 100,000 to be allocated immediately based on the review of staff and the county board. I'm certainly not going to support having the LSCP or some other organization spend county tax dollars. I don't think that's appropriate. So my motion would be the initial 100K that was budgeted with an additional 100,000 to create a grant program to suit immediate business needs.
So I'll support that, but I have some comments.
Okay.
So I like that, just to be clear, we started with 100,000 and then we found 100,000 from things that were being done in the courthouse there, that we took away from those things because we think this is important, and now we're at 200,000. With that, we also are talking about looking to other things like pilot programs. We applied for 150 in match, I guess it is, right? CMF?
That's through,
Yeah.
the
partnership?
foundation has those dollars. yes.
Well, the foundation endowment and the other grant there. So, okay, so we're hoping to spur this on. We have 100,000, we've added another 100, it's 200,000. We want these other places to try to match some of that and commit some more money. And then with that money, if I understand this right, is we're gonna have a grant program so that people that have come to us with a project plan to spur on childcare, our staff's gonna look at it and maybe we're gonna grant that money.
And managed by the
Yeah,
administration.
is it gonna be a loan to repay it? And see, I envision we'd have a loan thing where we loan people money, maybe no interest at all, and they repaid it, and we loan it to someone else. It's an ongoing thing, and it goes on for as long as we can do it, you know? It's kind of like we used to have with the IRP loan program. I kind of envision that, but I don't know.
One other thing I would like to bring up here is, people that appeared before our board from, a lot of them from the university over there that are working over there or whatever, and, said, how important it was for some of the ARPA money to go into childcare. And I guess I would encourage them to go to the Board of Control over there at the university and, if there's many that showed up here, bring it up to the Board of Control and the administration about the importance of childcare for people that work at it. They're one of the biggest employers and have money here in Marquette County. So just suggestions, there are a lot of players that can be involved in the child care issue, not just the county who's stepping forward with $200,000 into it.
So I wasn't quite done yet, so I think the administrator has something to add to this.
I just want to say, it kind of goes back to the comment, if I may speak, Chairman, about use of the dollar. So with the private investment that you're talking about, the grant component, we need to get those dollars out before the end of the year.
Oh.
Because once we roll them in, we won't get to do that. So that's all I wanted to say.
And I said before, I wasn't sure how this procedure was gonna go because we've never done something like this. This isn't something that county usually does, county government. It's really off the regular chart for us, and I wanna make sure it's done well, so I guess we leave it to our staff and trust that they'll do it well. I got a couple more things. So, our senator happened to call me yesterday on some other issues, Ed McBroom, and he did say that he very much supports this, and if anyone puts in for state dollars or state programs, which I know Commissioner Adamini had said there's some state dollars out there that are available, Senator McBroom said he'd support that wholeheartedly. He also said he's looking at NMU because NMU had a curriculum apparently that used to train people to be child care providers to get certified, and they apparently stopped doing that or curtailed it, so he's checking into why that happened and can't get it up and going. And then thirdly, Senator McBroom said that he'll look at the bureaucratic process as to getting certified for child care, see if they can't streamline that or make it more efficient. So I just want to add that he's there too, so I suggest that some of these people bring their attention and their energy to the state of Michigan and to the senator and to NMU, and I think that we're all wanting to work together. And I guess my last comment before I leave my little stage here is that I do want to point out that every municipality received ARPA funds. So in Marquette County, we have 19 townships, 3 cities, and a county. And hey, we're happy to give money. We're doubling it now. I don't see any of the 19 townships or the 3 cities doing it, so be aware that we're trying. It's something new for us. We're trying to do the right thing.
Chairman, I guess,
Go ahead.
if Commissioner Adamini had brought some information forward that I was hopeful he could share, but go ahead.
He's gonna do it after we get rid of, number 1,
Okay, fair enough.
Well, then, I wanted to comment on the staff recommendation, which included consideration of developing a contract with LSCP to establish an application process, criteria, and administration advanced program. Now, that doesn't mean that, we would give them 100,000 and they would analyze it and divvy the money up, but they could create a process for us, it appears that they're willing to, and then we can consider the recommendation on the second $100,000. It would, I think it'd be beneficial for us. I think it would take some load off of the administration. We've got a lot of things to do already. And so I would ask that be considered as part of the motion.
Anyway, the motion was that must come to the county, so anybody who wants to request of ARPA dollars for childcare, $100,000 in there. We've had one good request that's been out there for 9 months, so we haven't done anything with. That was somebody who was gonna go from 5 youngsters to 17 or 18 youngsters in 60 to 90 days, so we've had a good proposal out there, we haven't acted on, but we don't have a lot of other ones, but I guess as far as people having input, that's fine. But I'm very comfortable when it coming to the county administration, Scott, and as far as getting recommendations on money that comes to the county board, and the county board should have the final say as to where the money is spent.
Yeah, I agree with that, but there's a process that we go through in determining how that money be recommended to be spent. I know that I think there was some support on the request you're speaking of, but we don't know. I'm throwing that out there, I think it's a good idea to just kind of take a step away, and have a middle entity look at this and tax plan.
So we have a motion and a support.
Just to clarify, that wasn't part of your motion, though. You have the county.
No.
Motion and support for 100,000 to the community fund initiative and 100,000 for grant funds that'll be put out by Marquette County to private entrepreneurs or that have a good application and Scott and I guess anybody in Marquette County can comment on it if they got, I guess.
Well, no, I'm unsure, Jerry, so I see, I'm a little bit confused by the way the staff wrote this up. Sorry, Scott, I'm a little confused by it. But I see funding amounts and the ARPA money and the grant pilot program and then the foundation endowment. So there's 3 different things going on there. And then as far as staff recommendations, I see 100,000 in ARPA funds that we already set aside for child care initiatives. Then I see another 100,000 that was for the plexiglass stuff in the courthouse. We're saying, yeah, okay, we can put that aside too. So there's 200,000 from us. Right, okay. And then, okay.
Dollars is 200,000 for us.
Okay.
That's it.
And an endowment from whatever else somebody might, we're just trying to get other people to pitch in and do things.
There's been money received already at the community foundation.
Well, I kept hearing 100, so I wasn't sure. I wanted to be clear.
And the community foundation has also applied for the continuation of that pilot program, which is 150.
All right, thank you.
Support on that particular issue. Any other comments? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? No?
Given the immediate need that has been presented to this county board, we have at least 1, maybe 2 applications that have been in the hopper. And I think it would be pertinent for the board to take some action and get some of this funding out there as quickly as possible. So I would like to make a motion to allocate, and it's certainly not what was asked, but allocate the first 25,000 of that revenue that we just approved to get the county administration moving forward on adding another 14 spaces and getting that moving forward sooner than later.
So that's to the Scanlon development?
Well, I believe it was called Little Toes or Tiny Toes Business.
Any total business?
Was that the application? Right.
Is that the
But
one down there?
it's from the scan.
Yeah.
That's the motion. Do we have a support?
Oh.
Supported by Commissioner Pedro. I guess you want to talk about what you're going to do?
Well, just quickly, Mr. Chairman, is we have an accepted price with the seller. Basically, we've got a pretty good chunk of money set aside of our own money for equipment, and as soon as, if this passes, we're ready to go, get a purchase agreement going and start moving forward.
Oh, you would go 60 to 90 days, you said, from 5 plants to 17 or so?
Yes, 90 days would be our hope. A lot of red tape in there, as we've seen here, so otherwise I could guarantee it a little bit closer, but we have to have fire inspection, we have to have environmental inspection, all kinds of things to meet the compliance part of the daycare for the state. But I think we could do 90 days and go from 6 that we have in home, that she's been doing for 20 years, and go to probably 17, with the intention of putting on an addition and hopefully getting to 30 within the first year.
I guess if we could have a number of entrepreneurs throughout Marquette County, get people who want to go into the business and bring on 15, 20 more youngsters, childcare. If we can get a lot of the other units of government, schools, businesses involved, then you can make a dent in the need, so.
And if I could add one thing, the discussion about the requirements that Commissioner Adamini was talking about, that isn't as big a problem as I think. We've already got staff that's agreed to come to be employed, and they'll be trained as a group within a couple of days. So it's not, we were able to find people, which was what we thought would be a problem, but getting them trained with the help of the state isn't going to be a big deal.
Motion and a support?
I'm unclear whether this 25,000 is through a donation, a grant, or a loan.
But my motion was to the 100,000 of grant applications that we approved.
Okay, so
That
we're discussing,
would be the non-payable, non-refundable, but Bill had talked about wanting to do something with a revolving. And we do, Karen, we do have a revolving economic development fund that we could also open up for childcare business. I mean, it's open for all businesses.
We closed that.
The IRPs?
Yeah.
Oh.
That's been closed.
Fair enough.
So we have a motion and a support to take 25,000 out of the grant fund for the gentleman's expansion of childcare in the West End.
So the only problem I'm reluctant sometimes is that giving money to private industry, I know we did that up in Big Bay, but they opened something to the public, and if something went wrong, we're gonna take their computers back or whatever it is. So I'm always reluctant, but I tell you, that's one of the problems, inherent problems we have with the county getting involved in childcare, is that it's private industry, and you're mixing government with private industry, and it's unusual at best, and it makes me feel uneasy. And I don't know what it makes you guys feel like.
Commissioner, we opened that door when we gave to Big Bay.
If you see the difference that I said with that.
I did, yeah.
That was okay, right, Bill?
Well, yeah, but that was open to the public. I don't know, are we all allowed to walk into the daycare place? I mean, that's a little different, you know, I mean, it's a business. they're not charging for that up at Big Bay, are they charging?
It's not as open as a tavern, but you can certainly walk in.
No, but I mean,
The doors are open.
I mean, is the daycare, free then? Because the place in Big Bay is free to the public. So I guess I feel like uneasy.
We're involved in the rest of the business development in Marquette County. As long as I've been sitting here in, you know, millions of dollars, then I guess you have to see what the result is. If you create, you know, hundreds and thousands of jobs, then there's value to being involved with private business, but it's a good point you make.
And I will support it, it just makes me feel uneasy, that's all.
And I would know, this is a unique situation.
Yeah, it is.
You know, these ARPA funds are like one time that.
And support for 25,000 for the development on the west end, Scanlon family. Any further comments? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion approved. Good luck.
Thank you all very much.
Yeah, good luck. Good luck to us all.
Next, ARPA allocation, county recreation needs is, next on the list. This comes from, the ARPA spending plan. The board set aside 400,000 for county recreation needs. Staff is suggesting that these funds be transferred via budget amendment to the forestry fund at this time. The fund would be used as follows: 137,700 for the bond purchase described in the attached memo, 262,300 for the forestry capital project. Detailed listing of approved forestry projects that have been approved by the board through the capital budget process in 2019 to 2023. Reserve forestry fund is moves some in upcoming years where lower revenue from timber sales. So we're asking the forestry fund reserve project is attached. $500,000 is suggested as the floor for the fund. So asking to amend the budget and transfer $400,000 from the general fund to the forestry fund for land purchase and capital projects.
Move to approve the recommendation.
Support.
Any comments?
Well, I like the idea that we're using some of this to buy 160 acres from the state of Michigan for $137,700, and it has a timber value of $253,000 on it currently. So, you know, we've done a lot with our county forests over the years. We use it for recreation. A lot of it's for the harbor and Big Bay, Purpose Park. But I think it's done well, and I think that if we can buy property from the state of Michigan that has more timber on it than we're paying for it, and then in the future increase the amount that we get for stumpage, that's a good idea. Fix that.
Staying in 15 years, gain 115,000, right?
But it's part of our master plan strategy to acquire adjacent properties.
Although, the only downfall, since I gotta say that I always have these quick pros, you know, yings and yangs. But, the downfall is that now you have property that some taxpayers are not paying property tax on, and if they would've sold to an individual, you would've been having property tax. But I still think we do well with our county forests, so.
Motion is supported. Any further comments? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Just getting back to the child care, I want to call on Mr. Commissioner at a meeting. He has some good information for people interested in being in the child care business. Some funds that are available to the state of Michigan, correct?
Yes, last week I went to Ann Arbor to see a football game. I got season tickets there for the last 40 years. And I always stay with a good friend that I met in 1963 when I was a freshman there. his wife and, he and my wife and I, we've been very close friends ever since. But when I was at his house, he was asking me how things were going on the county board, and I told him we had this problem in Marquette County about adequate childcare. And he says, I said, the funding is the real problem. He said, really? He said, my daughter-in-law owns 5 childcare centers, and she says the state is pushing out a lot of money now on childcare. And I guess this spring, the Michigan Department of Education, together with the Michigan Department of Licensing and Regulatory Affairs, launched a $100 million strategy to open 1,000 new childcare providers by the end of 2024 and expand access to quality, affordable care for families in all communities. When he gave me her phone number, I called her. She said she was going to get me some addresses where you people could look and talk about possibly getting some of the funds out of this $100 million. But you got to get there early, because we've been in situations where the state puts out a big chunk of money, and by the time we hear about it up here, everybody downstate is already But I'll give you those 2 sites, and I'll give you a copy of the stuff that we have.
If you want to get a copy of the information, you can talk after the meeting to Mr. Radamini or I guess Mr. Burnett.
Yeah, so anyway, I'm glad that I was able to get some information for you, and hopefully you can get down there in time where there's money left and get some commitments.
If I could just mention one thing, Jerry, we have applied for every one of these. We work with the state up at this level, and they have been very good.
Yeah, that's what she told me too.
Unfortunately, they're all in the pipe, but there are a lot of grants that are coming this way. Hopefully, we'll end up with a $200,000 mortgage, and that's all. So we do have, don't think this is the only place we came.
Yeah.
Good.
Thank you.
Thanks, Steve. Thanks. Next, you see the tri-media building the demolition, administrative amendment, this is one, before we get into it, I guess, when you hear the story, this SHPO organization, you'll have to hold your nose and do what we probably have to do in order to take down blighted buildings. So that's just a few statements. And Scott, and I, and Dwayne, and worked in the room, and I guess Bill, on this issue.
Well, if I could say, I think it's a bunch of crap, and I'll call them shitto instead of SHPO, but, we got a bunch of buildings at Sawyer, and there's some that are decrepit and need to come down. And for them to lay this overlay of this historic district all over the industrial part of Sawyer is terrible. It's totally ridiculous. I'd like to go back and find out whose brainchild that was, because now it's caused us this trouble, and we're spending hundreds of thousands of dollars. We had a contract before.
We ended up not having to do that 102.
Okay, so now we got a contract that we have to do with Tri-Media, And again, you say hold your nose, right, but it's $400,000. So $400,000 because some bureaucratic bullshit in Lansing has to come up here and tell us we're allowed to tear down our decrepit buildings. So no, I have a real problem with it. It irritates me. It's like a poster child for bureaucratic nonsense. And I tried to get the Groom and Sarah Kimbenzi and everybody else to go fight this fight, but I don't know whatever happened with it, but. All right, there I go, there's my 2 cents, sorry. So,
well, I appreciate your folks' time on this. This is a very challenging process that we've encountered, and I think the comments that were made are probably very well deserved on the challenges and the aspect of this. Staff has been working very closely with the FAA, with SHPO, and with our consultants to devise a plan and a method to move forward. We have come up with a good next step. The SHPO has identified Sawyer as a historic site, so the previous agreement that we brought to this board for $102,000 was the process that we were going to look at to see if Sawyer was historic, and SHPO has already made the identification that it is historic. So we had to move into the next stages. We're going to work with SHPO to develop a memorandum of understanding, and what this memorandum of understanding will provide us is the steps that we have to take to address these buildings that we're contemplating or we're proposing to demo. To be included with that, there are 3 other tasks that we have to address. We added an additional building, so there is some cost with that. We originally started with 13, now we have 14. The tasks that we are faced with is, task 1 is the potential adverse impacts of removing the 14 buildings to include the environmental assessment. This includes an in-depth investigation of the selected environmental aspects and coordinating with SHPO, the FAA, and the public with meetings and to further gather information and have the discussions on how we address Sawyer with tearing these buildings down and creating or at least identifying the historic value. Next step is, task number 2 is hazard material assessment of the additional building. That is a building that we had mistaken, that's entomology. That building was included in the tasks. And the third one is the environmental site assessment of each of the identified buildings. This entails a complete reconnaissance of the property and the neighboring properties in relation to geological, hydrogeological, hydrological, wetland, and topographical data of the subject properties. And the cost for this whole process did come with a not-to-exceed amount of $398,457.89. Again, in the memo, it's identified what the tasks, each individual task amounts to. There is, again, task 1, which is the full share of it, it's $339,980, and that'll cover the general environmental assessment. Task 2, which was a hazardous assessment of the additional building, which is $4,882. And then the final assessment or final task, which is phase 1 of the environmental site assessment, came to a total of $53,595. Now, this additional work has set us back a little bit. We had anticipated, if everything went right when we initially started this project over a year ago, that we would already be looking at potentially green grass in those locations, but with this additional work, we are expecting this project to add an additional 9 months to the project. Demolition most likely will not begin until calendar year 2023, and we cannot start any of the demolition until all of the environmental assessment and the SHPO documentation is completed. Now, there was communication with the FAA, and currently our contractor Pitch Construction, they are aware of the situation, and they still remain engaged with us over this whole process. But the FAA has stated quite clearly that if their price is any different than the original bid price, we would have to rebid the project. So that potentially is going to impact us with rebidding and the potential increase in costs. Now, with this whole process with SHPO, under the FAA regulations, we are still required to do an assessment on the scope of work and the cost, where we will go out for an independent fee estimate. We will communicate with other engineering firms that are familiar with this type of work, and we will give them the scope of work, and they'll evaluate the whole scope and then come back with a price that they would charge. And then what we have to do is compare that with the meet and hunt or the tri-media expense, and compare that to see if it's within reason. The FAA allows a 10% plus or minus in the scope of work or the cost. So we will, at least prior to signing any agreement, if so approved, we would have a assessment done independently to ensure that the cost was within reason. So our recommendation at this time would be to accept the Tri-Media Consultant Service Addendum Number 1 agreement at the cost not to exceed $398,457.89 to complete the construction administration and the SHPO work contingent on the approved independent fee estimate, and authorize Chairperson Corcoran to sign the agreement. One other comment I would want to add to this is, even though we understand this is a huge expense that we did not anticipate, this will be something that we're going to have to take care of regardless of us doing it today or down the road, because SHPO has assessed Sawyer as historic, and any project that would impact the historic value of the base would have to go through this very process. So it's not a whether of if we should do it, it's when we will have to do it.
I've never seen anything as dumb as this in my life. That's the truth of the matter. I mean, here we got all these 11 or 12 lighted buildings, and we, it's gonna cost, what, to get them torn down, maybe $2-3 million, and we're spending $400,000 for nothing, really. I'm not blaming any of you people. I'm talking about somebody that got this kind of power and create this kind of craziness in this state. Something's wrong.
You know, we got a board full of attorneys here, and by definition, what's historic, right? I mean, 1958, the government, and then it turned over in 94 to the county, and all of a sudden, it doesn't make any sense.
Do you realize that the Air Force was here for 37 years? 1958, 1995, 37 years. Now they've been gone for 27. Pretty soon they're going to be gone longer than they were here. And we made a historic district out of it. I'm saying someone did it. Somebody, and I hope it wasn't us by accident, but somebody made this into a historic district, and it was wrong, because there's a lot of places in this country that had military facilities that have been there for hundreds of years. I think of Vallejo out in California or something, been there for hundreds of years. And you think all of them are historic?
Calumet's been up there since, right, I mean, come on. I'm not so sure we shouldn't just...
Can we get it off?
Just say we're not doing it. It's wrong. It's fundamentally wrong. Why would we spend $400,000 extra?
Well, we get it declassified, that's the question. It got classified, why can't we get it declassified?
It's just a waste of funds.
Can we?
Well, I don't know. I don't have that answer, and I guess the big thing is getting moving tonight, and then we can work on those. I know that Senator McBroom is very engaged in this issue, and there's more to come. And we may be back down in, I might be back down in Lansing to testify.
Well, are we at any harm here to hold off for another 2 weeks for $400K? I mean...
Can I weigh in, and if that's okay? This process is expected to take upwards to 9 months. I don't think there's any way out of it. I mean, if the board, you will do whatever the board directs us to do. If you want to wait and more time, we'd like to know what you're looking for us to follow up. But as noted by Dwayne, that we're going to be back at this unless, and they doubled down on me when I gave them the tour. the state historic preservation people, and it's at them, they said it's absolutely historic, and that's our position. So, and that's what's landed us here today. I couldn't get them out there, so we need to tear down buildings. We have a timeline issue. As noted, we're not sure, there's challenges that we may encounter. We may end up having to go out to rebid it. We won't be able to do that potentially. We've been advised not to do it until this process is over, which this is expedited at 9 months. We're looking at pushing into middle of next year to be bidding, and you have to use your money by May 20-something of 2024. Or we
Yes.
use it.
So what is the funding source? That was my...
It's CARES. So, and each time the cost is going up, and unless this is behind us, other projects that we're doing, unless we can call them maintenance out there, will require us to go through this process. But we'll go with the direction of the board at all times. It's up to you as a board. If you have specific things you want us to try and look at.
You're saying that somebody declared this an historic district?
Somebody did, I don't know who. Yeah. I would suggest, I would think maybe Bob Vick or something like that. but-
What started this was a consultant that was hired under Trimedia, initially Commonwealth, to do the submittal. They were supposed to submit documents to help SHPO make a determination on whether it was historic or not historic. In that document, they made it, and I'm going to paraphrase it pretty badly probably, something to the effect that we find that this is historic. They made that
But
statement.
you're saying it's not, it wasn't applied for, you're saying it's a determination that they're allowed to
And
make.
then the state took hold of that immediately, and then that's when the discussions, vigorous discussions, I will say, and numerous discussions with state officials. We brought in assistance to help carry our point. Unfortunately, and that's what brought them ultimately to Marquette to do probably one of the first actual site tours they've done in a while. And then they verified through that site tour with me, we feel this is historic and that's where we're going. And we'll be setting up, and then that led up to other conversations.
Doesn't the state have an obligation to define what historic is and, I mean, how do you turn K.I. Sawyer to being a historic site? That just doesn't make any sense.
I mean, the 12 lighted buildings, there's nothing historic about them, I can tell you that.
No.
So I guess there may be something out there that you can declare as historic, but not 12 lighted buildings.
No. And if I might also add, which Dwayne somewhat alluded to, but because you haven't been in the weeds with us on this to that degree, and thank goodness you haven't, your blood pressure would probably be higher than it is already. Because of the position that the SHPO office has had, it ties the hands of the FAA. The FAA could say, hey, we don't agree with this assessment. They've been extremely supportive of our position. However, to fight that could cost even more time than the steps we're taking. So we're saying, I don't have an alternative. I guess if I had one, but I'll defer to the board on timing. If you have further things you want us to look into, we're absolutely happy to do that. We're very frustrated, but it could cost more if we try to fight it, and we may not be successful.
Although we fought a lot of things, we fought things with dark storage, we fought a lot of things, and we still are fighting things. Severance tax, we're doing all kinds of things. So I guess my question for maybe legal counsel would be, what avenues do we have? Can we bring an action against the state of Michigan? Can we ask the senator, our legislators to bring a bill that says, hey, this is not a historic district? Can we do that?
We don't know.
I mean, there's always some avenue. I mean, there's something. You can't just, we're not quite in Russia
I'm
yet.
in lockstep with Commissioner Nordine on the,
But we have to do
see
this.
if we have an avenue. I mean,
We're on a timeline.
Yeah,
we have to do this, but-
We have some time here to,
As the administrator stated, we are working with our CARES Act funding, and the CARES Act funding is equally tied to the demolition of the buildings. We have a very strict timeline. May 22nd of 2024 is the end of the funding for the CARES Act. Any money that we do not spend by that time unless we are successful in getting an extension, which I've submitted one already and it was denied. But if we are not successful with an extension, any monies that are not spent at that time go back to the FAA. This money we originally earmarked over 3 million for this. We still are not, we're encroaching on what we thought was the end result for the cost to do this. But we're still not far behind with where we're at with the funding or for our original estimates. I know the FAA has made it very clear they would support us on pursuing this further up the chain, but they did indicate that the likelihood of this going up the chain is not going to provide us any relief. It's just going to delay the inevitable, and that they cannot, by their own regulations and legislation and law, they cannot move any further with any of these projects, actually any of our projects moving forward that may impact the historical value of the airport until this document is completed and there is a defined path of how we identify and document that historic value to all of the buildings. So,
Given that we received 18 million plus from CARES Act, that was not something we counted on, it was kind of a surprise, I think, some of it. And given that there's time limits, even though this is very distasteful, and I think the chair put it perfectly when he started, that you gotta hold her nose and do it, I think I'd make a motion to follow staff's recommendation and accept the Trimedia Consulting Services Addendum Number 1 agreement not to exceed $398,457.89.
I support that one.
And I'll hold my nose while we do it.
I know, and I agree with the disclaim that's been expressed by the different commissioners about this, but we're speculating on possible other ways to get rid of this, and we don't have the time, and it looks like we're between a rock and a hard place according to the work that Scott Irvish has been doing on this today, so I'm supporting it, let's get it done.
I just say, there's so much mold on every one of these buildings that it would be a health hazard to try and save them.
It's a historic mold.
And they came in. That must be it. That must be it.
I said when we started, it's one you're gonna have to hold your nose on to vote for. Because it's wrong in so many aspects, it's unbelievable, but we have a motion and a support. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Next, KI Sawyer Hangar 664, fire suppression improvement construction agreement. Staff recommends Marquette County approve the agreement between Marquette County and Primo Construction at about $2,721,973 and give the chairperson authority to sign the agreement. This is for the fire hangar 664 fire suppression improvement construction agreement. Your pleasure.
I move approval of the staff's recommendation, and I'd like to, yes, or support, and I have a comment.
I'll support.
And my comment is that I'm glad to be back to one where we have 95% federal and state funding, only 5% local.
I have one question for Dwayne. Who's in 664?
that is Envoy Air.
Okay, thank you.
Any comments or questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? KI Sawyer water hydrant purchase, pretty much a common sense one, with 12 fire hydrants and 6 hydrant extensions. ETNA supply purchase will allow the water department to staff to continue to replace inoperable fire hydrants, and that's for $44,424, but funded out of the water system, correct?
Yes, out of the capital improvement budget for the,
Motion to
So moved.
move by Commissioner Adamini, supported by Commissioner DePietro.
So this is, I see that they're cheaper out of Grand Rapids than it is out of Escanaba, but they're very heavy. That includes transportation and delivery and everything else.
yes,
right?
that is the full price.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Next, Sawyer wastewater, Goldmaster sanitary sewer relining, recommendation, staff recommendation is to waive the irregularities in the proposal and accept the tunnel vision pipeline service bid for $32,282.50 for the sanitary lining repair, authorizing civil counsel to draft an agreement and chairperson Corcoran to sign. Motion to consider.
I'll make the motion to approve the recommendation as presented.
Support.
Commissioner Adamini, any summary you want?
This is just to repair a sanitary line on Globemaster Street. We've found over the course of history that we're starting to have issues with that particular line, and we videoed it before, and we find that the line is getting tree roots infiltrating into the sanitary line. We've gone in and we've augered them out. We've managed to get the line clear, but it consistently comes back. We looked at a couple different options, excavating and replacing the line, or actually lining it with an epoxy liner. Tunnel Vision has done this in the past, and they're a reputable organization. They were the only bidder for the project. There is a request to waive the irregularities. They did not acknowledge the addendum, and they did not provide a 1% bid bond, but in their bid proposal, they covered everything that was asked for. We feel it's a good project. Doing the lining versus excavation is far easier on the residents. It can be accomplished relatively easy, and it would be a good long-term fix for us.
I know where most of the streets are, but I can't picture Globemaster.
It's off back near the roundabout, near the shopette.
Motion and support, any other comments? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Next, Sawyer wastewater treatment plant switch gear battery replacement, staff recommendation is to waive the irregularities relating to the example completion time of the project in the proposal and accept FDS engineering and electrical service bid of $25,000 to complete the removal and replacement of the battery system, authorizing civil counsel to draft an agreement for chairperson Corcoran to sign.
This one is more of a maintenance item. This is pertaining to a switchgear that it dates back to the Air Force days. It runs on batteries that in the event of a power outage, it switches the mainline power from utility over to our backup generator. We did have three bidding parties in there, J-Rank, which came in at $51,000. Lakehead Contractors out of Superior, Wisconsin, they were $43,000, and FDS Engineering, which was $25,000. They all, in their bids, they all did make indication that the original RFP called for a 60-day completion. They said that it was going to take 15 to 16 weeks lead time on the batteries. That is what pertains to waiving the irregularities, and we feel FDS would be a competent contractor to provide the services.
I move to approve staff recommendation.
We have a motion and support.
Support. One question, what size batteries are they? Are they 8Ds or what are they?
They're 3 volt. They're an industrial 3 volt battery, and there's a series of 20 that are designed, wired up in series to provide that service.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? United PFAS investigation grant, that recommends the Marquette County Board of Commissioners waive the comprehensive purchase policy and award the contract for completing phase 2 of the PFAS investigation of the former airport located in the Gully to ACOM once the grant award is awarded to Marquette County. So, ask for a motion to consider.
Motion to consider.
Support.
Moved by Mrs. Roach, supported by Mr. Petro. Any comments? Yes?
This is AECom. They were the consulting firm that did the phase 1 of the Negaunee PFAS investigation. We're moving into phase 2. Both phase 1 and phase 2 are 100% state of Michigan funded grants. Phase 2 is a more comprehensive investigation on the locations and the sources of the PFAS. The state of Michigan Eagle is very comfortable with working with AECom. In fact, they provided recommendation that we stick with them because they were concerned that in the event that we switched over to another consulting firm, that there may not be continuity in where the previous investigation began and the new ones, or ended and the new one begins. They also are very comfortable with AECom, and they feel that it would be a good decision. Sidebar note on this is AECom, in our initial PFAS investigation, they did all of the development of the scope of work that we submitted for the grant. This next round, they did all of the work with the scope, or did all of the work to develop the scope of work for this next phase. They submitted the scope of work to the state of Michigan, and the state evaluated the scope of work. They evaluated the price that AECom had placed on it, and they agreed with that, and they feel that this AECom would not be or would be a good selection. Granted, they allow, or they understand that Marquette County has our purchasing policy, and they fully respect it, and AECom understands that well, and they fully respect it, but the state has just a voice that they feel it would be a good action just to award it over to AECom.
I have a question. What's our timeline on these results?
This
Are we aware?
investigation,
I mean, do we have any?
they're anticipating this one would go into 2023, the investigation, and let me ask you this question is what are you asking for timelines?
Well, look, I have a lot of constituents that have called on the PFAS issue around Negaunee Township.
Okay.
So they want some transparency. They want to know what we produced in that, and it's a reasonable request. So I'm curious as to, that's why I asked,
Sure.
What's the timeline?
They'll finish this investigation into 2023, where they'll.
And that data will be shared?
That data will all be public information. In fact, in the previous phase 1, we had several public meetings where all of the information was provided to the public, and we opened it up for comment, questions. And the state has been very supportive on this, where the state, even above and beyond the initial grant, they went in and did further investigation and further sampling and provided the safety mechanisms with filtered and bottled water to recipients that their well may have been contaminated.
Yep,
So,
Yep, thank you.
Motion on support. Any further comments? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
thank you.
Any public comment?
I think we were 12A, don't we? Or do we add that or not to 12A? Oh, we
Yeah.
So,
Oh,
public comment?
James Galt, Scandia, using my opinions. And first, on behalf of the Marisa Community Wellness Task Force, I see here in minutes that you approved the Great Lakes Recovery Center to do the clinical supervision and the compliance for your health department clinics and all these people that we're serving, all these mental health services too. So I'd ask you to please include Great Lakes Recovery Center in your assessment of, and their lawyers, in with, did the mental health assessments comply with the minimum standard of state law, the mental health code, including MCL 330.1712, that an individualized written plan of services will include those 9 things, including needs for legal services, and if you please do that. And I think it was a little inappropriate and immature for, premature for you to just start handing out the money for a proposal that wasn't on the agenda. And it was, you said, oh, well, you've been handling these applications for a while now, and somebody slipped them under the door, that, and they were picked up and handed by the obvious people that can do that. And then all of a sudden you give it to them. And you said you were going to have staff review and all that. You didn't even do RFPs on any of it. And then you just give it to them. And I thought that was inappropriate. So how many, he asked for 50,000, you got 25. So how many seats, how many childcare spots are we going to get for that? Is that like, he said 15, 17, is that paperwork or something? He said it may not even happen. He just said it might not even happen. So I don't know where that proposal is, but I'd like you to schedule some walkthroughs. He said that the public could go through this facility, so please do some public viewings of this new facility that we just funded. So please do that. And also, about the Historic Preservation Review Board, if that happened on September 28th at the meeting, I believe that Senator McBoom was talking about that he was suggesting that other decision that they made in the other part of the Western UP was to block some mining thing. They said all of a sudden they got the historic district somewhere out in the middle of nowhere, and it's like to block this mining thing that's near there. And that's why I did it, and they're running through that appeal. I believe that happened, and I've already requested the rules of procedure to make sure they're following the rules there. And because those people are, they're supposed to be historic. The University of Michigan academics are like mucky mucks. And, and they wanted to give me the rules, so I got to apparently FOIA that to the big maze or something they want me to go through. But they're going to be included in my movie too, on the bully with a gavel, and how this stuff gets rifled through. How is it, Sawyer would have put that through? Somebody filed that application. They said the other one was an application from Wisconsin. They said from somebody that got this thing on the border on our side, but it was an application from Wisconsin. So we don't know who that application come from, so maybe Scott could tell us about that. Who actually filed for that, to be that reward to even see that. And we should get the money back from that consultant that you paid to give a recommendation, yet they gave a legal determination. They didn't do what they said we're paid to do, give a recommendation, that they didn't do that. So you just try to get your money back for that, whatever we paid them to do that, because that's a breach of contract there. And if this is what's happening, and who paid those people, and what are their connections, and how did they get to the people that did the application, you know how it all works. So if we could get somebody on that, that'd be great. And but we would like to get from you the operational definition of comprehensive mental health services. What is the entirety of what is given to somebody, child walks in the clinic, they go in the back room? Are they going to be addressing to protect the child from the person that's sitting in the waiting room from them, the custodial parent? If their parents are divorced, it'd be the custodial parent who is likely the perpetrator of violations of their custody and parenting time orders, because they are the custodial parent and they're the ones who would control the parenting time. And that, 63% of youth suicides are children from fatherless homes. That's significant. Significant amount of the people, it's not all the children, it's not all the issues, but it's a significant portion of what goes on in the fundamental static in the community. And a lot of the other part of it is the distrust in our decision-making processes here, and people following the rules, Robert's Rules of Order, whatnot. Do the same thing, you do your report recommendations first, you do your debate first, then you make the motions after, negotiate the motions, and then you just did that to that guy, just give that to that guy, your buddy. Okay, it's just over and over and over and over. So this is why we have fundamental stress, suicidal behavior. And there's only one thing that causes suicidal behavior, and that is stress. So, if we just eliminate those things for people as they go, their needs for legal services, and you just think about the thousands, literally probably 10,000 mental health assessments that you have personally, you did through your employees, and you did it. Okay. So please make sure that those complied with the minimum standard state law, and if they didn't, offer those people new assessments so that they can then get what they need to get the help done. Thank you.
Good afternoon. As you know, my name is Shilpa Jovali. I'm a parent liaison for the Marquette Great Start Parent Coalition. And I've been involved in child care advocacy for 1 year. Lots of meetings, one-on-one conversations with parents, marches here and at Northern, and of course months of public comment here in your room that at times were uncomfortable, emotional, and very moving. But I think we've had some wins this last year. The amount of community organizing around this topic, giving parents and childcare providers a platform to speak and have voices heard, is a win. The amount of attention this topic has gained amongst business leaders, county commissioners, city manager, and throughout our community is a win. NMU signing on as the first business in the UP to participate in the Tri-Share is a win. The child care coalitions that have formed to really analyze and strategize around this issue, like Community Foundation of Marquette, Marisa, Great Start Collaborative, Community Action Alger Marquette, Grow and Lead, Lake Superior Community Partnership, and more is a win. The advancements that Lindsay Carey from Marisa and other partners are making for additional training avenues for early childhood educators, such as the CTE program in Ishpeming, the CDA programs, and really working and pushing NMU to bring back at least a 2-year training program is a win. Your decision to give $100,000 for a pilot program focusing on expanding in-home daycares with 3 key agency involvement is a win. And today, your decision to allocate an additional $100,000 toward immediate solutions to funding actual child care providers in our county is a win. I just want to say that it's such a complicated issue, as I think we've all figured out, and I think the best way to tackle child care, from what I've learned, is a multifaceted approach. We have to address staffing shortages, the low wages that our staff are paid, give them more training opportunities, expand centers and in-home daycares, make child care affordable, like programs like the Tri-Share and DHS subsidy. And that $100 million that we've all been waiting for from the state, I've been waiting since January. A lot of it is not trickling down. The first that I've seen that is somewhat tangible is this $150,000 regional child care planning grant that's due at the end of October. But I think your decision to fund immediate solutions is at a great time. We need it. And I had the opportunity with Gwen and some other parents to tour Britta's Epic Center that was recently licensed last week. And something that she's doing that is so innovative and so progressive is bringing women back to the workplace. She has half her building with offices for therapists, counselors to come back to work. Half the building is childcare. It's a high quality, beautiful setting. I brought my kids there. They didn't want to leave. And seeing a single mom work so hard to try to help our community in a really progressive, innovative, creative way is really inspiring. And I also recognize that the Scanlons and Ishpeming are trying to help with in-home daycare to go larger with with the center-based. I think there are 2 child care providers in our community who right now are trying to open more spots. I really encourage you to fund them both, if possible, with this $100,000. I wholeheartedly believe that we need an immediate solution, and I really thank you for making that tough call. I know it was a tough call. I know you had to do a lot of meetings and discuss it, but I think it was the right call, and I want to thank you all for letting me come here time and time again, for all the parents and people that have come here and spoken, and for listening, and to do something that I think will make a real difference in our community. I'm going to keep working. I'm going to keep talking. I hope to keep working with all of you in the future, and the city commissioners and the city manager, and at the state level, whatever we can do to lift our community. I think today was a win. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Britta Carlson. I may look familiar to you, as I was here in the spring and I submitted a proposal for $222,000 toward child care. Contrary to Mr. Scanlon, I have not stopped pushing forward. So we are very happy to announce we got our license Friday and we opened our doors Monday. It's been a lot of lost sleep. Our location is at 106 Coles Drive here in Marquette. It has taken me over 6 months and cost me every single ounce of my single income salary, in addition to loans of over $70,000 to open our doors to date. $15,000 of that $70,000 just to go to our mechanical room, which nobody will see, but keeps the kids safe based on the requirements. Having just been through this process, I can assure you that Mr. Scanlon's optimism is fantastic, but 60 to 90 days is admirable without securing a location and is nearly impossible. I'd like to note that there are currently only 2 fire inspectors for child care facilities across the entire UP, with a wait list of up to a year. Furthermore, there's only 1 lead inspector for child care facilities in the entire UP, and he's located in the Sioux and takes over 6 months to book. We received our license Friday, as mentioned, and we were able to open 15 slots. We have great collaboration with the health department as well as our local child care licensing agent, and have worked at the state level to expedite the process. We now open at 6 a.m. to retain one of our hospital employees that otherwise would not be there and would have left the workforce. She's a respiratory therapist, so if one of us get a lung infection, we got you. What I need from you in order to make a greater impact faster on slots available is funds. We need funding to expand up to 17 more slots in our existing site in Marquette. I've also toured a facility in Ishpeming last week and would like to expand to meet the need. I'm currently on a first-name basis with state legislators, policymakers, Senator McBroom, and local inspectors to get our facility done in these last 6 months. Furthermore, our team has compiled the data within our county, and the total list is 917 children within our county on the wait list as of today. I urge you to see the economic impact on our community that could be made by reintegrating those parents into our local jobs by asking for the remaining $75,000 of the $100,000 allocated to Mr. Scanlon to realistically open an additional 17 slots within 90 days on site of our currently licensed facility with confidence, and the remaining funds to go toward expansion of a second site on the west end. Our tours are available by booking online at medproshare.com/get-started. I'd like you to note that we had to create 2 LLCs to make this possible. As a pediatric occupational therapist, starting MedProShare, we couldn't get insured because we were a pediatric outpatient facility with a child care facility. Insurance companies have never seen that kind of support in one building. So we separated LLCs through a partnership, and that's why the name is EPIC, an educational partnership in the community. We've partnered with teachers and therapists to make this possible. Thank you.
Thank you.
Margaret Brum, 404 East Magnetic. I'm starting with garbage and ending with PFAS. I recently had the pleasure of meeting a Northern Michigan University professor of chemistry named Leslie Putnam. I hope you all know her. If not, please write down her name. Anybody dealing with PFAS in the county. Dr. Putnam's research project is working with a plant called hemp, H-E-M-P, to plant it in PFAS-contaminated soil and sludge, and determine how much of the PFAS will draw up, how much of the hemp will draw up how much of the PFAS from the contaminated soil and sludge. And this all came about in terms of her having 2 5-gallon pails of PFAS-contaminated sludge from the Sawyer wastewater plant, because I happened to be on a lake freighter, and Dr. Putnam was one of the 4 people with us. She was a friend of a friend, and she was telling me her research project as we walked around the boat, and she said she was a chemistry professor working on PFAS remediation. And normally when she says that to people, they ask her what PFAS is, and I looked at her and said, I'm on the wastewater advisory board for Marquette County. I know where you can get PFAS-contaminated sludge. And she went, really? And I went, yeah, we can get it. And we personally went out to Sawyer and picked up the PFAS-contaminated sludge, and the work has begun. Dr. Putnam was gracious enough to come to the Marquette Area Wastewater Treatment Board to make them aware of it, and I am taking the liberty of making you aware of it as well. Michigan is in the leadership of PFAS identification and remediation of all the states, and we have a map online. There's a tremendous amount of information online. But I think too often, and I apologize, this is a personal conviction, I think too often we look elsewhere for solutions, and we forget how many smart, talented people we have right here. So anybody dealing with PFAS or concerned about it should contact Dr. Putnam and let them know their concerns, and let them know that they would like to know when her research is publishable. So far, she had been working with PFAS-contaminated water, which she made herself, but now she has actual sludge, which is so much better to work with. So that's my second public comment, garbage and PFAS. One of these days, I'll talk about butterflies and other pleasant subjects, but right now, please know Dr. Putnam, I've repeated her name like 8 times, is at Northern working on this right now, and please become familiar with her and her work, because I really do think that solution is going to make a difference. I don't know when, but I'm very excited about her work. Thank you very much.
Hello, my name is Gwen Storm. I'm at 1027 2nd Street in Marquette, Michigan. Just here to say thank you all for listening to us, for providing a response that, of course, it's not going to solve the problem, but certainly it's going to solve part of the problem. And I really appreciate that we have a county commission that listens and that responds and that cares about the citizens of our county from the youngest to the oldest. And I really do believe that your investment in kids at the young end of the spectrum will have positive benefits for what you're already investing in at the other end. So just thank you all.
Thank you. So the 20 minutes are up. The comment, Commissioner comments?
Two things. One, Scott, I'd like if the staff would look at Martin Lake, and I guess there's two questions I have. The one is, have we been using those wells?
9 to 10.
9 to 10?
We'll do some follow-up on that.
And the second one was that someone alluded to the fact that, or stated that we were doing studies or had someone at NMU do, were there studies done? Can you check in follow up on that?
There was some study that Mr. Shendon had completed with other parties, and I could pull it up. I'm not completely familiar with it right offhand, but we will do some more.
Okay, cool. Thank you. And the second comment I had was the hydrants. Make sure you give us a. I was on a fire call a couple weeks ago again on Sawyer, and they said, hey, we're not sure which hydrants work and which ones don't. And I said they're working on getting them replaced, but we should periodically get an update of which hydrants are inoperable. So in case there's a problem, we don't want the township saying, hey, we didn't tell them which ones were inoperable. Go ahead. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Last Friday, we had a town hall meeting in Marquette Township with Ed McBroom, Senator Ed McBroom, and he got a earful of SHPO, and wanted to think, our county administrator, Scott Urbish, was there. Our county chairman was also present. But the more our chairman talked about SHPO, the louder he got. So Ed McBroom heard him, and he did put a nice article in the Mining Journal about his mission that he's taken back to Lansing to see what he can do about this. So anyways, I just want to let you know that Ed McBroom heard us about SHPO and a couple other issues. So anyways, thank you.
Mark, that'll be the next one, is what's the hospital up there. That investigated it.
1913 or something like that.
It's happening all over the state. That's the sad part of it. The other.
It's okay for staff. I just wanted to remind the board and anybody of interest here, tomorrow at 1 p.m. out at K.I. Sawyer in the Heritage Air Museum, to Ms. Brum's comment, the group coming up, the RAB Committee, Remediation Advisory Board, will be hearing an update on the status of remediation at Sawyer, in particular, the work they've been doing to identify the movement, if any, of the PFAS that's out there, and so that's going to be a big part of it. So.
Repeat Commissioner Friday morning at Hannibal, so this is some from our commission. Just want to make everybody aware. Thank everybody for attending, and thank the commissioners and committees.